It's time for the August 2024 SheetLoad of Cards Creative Team Hop, where we all show you how we use this month's SheetLoad. Hey, it's Beth. Welcome. It is time for the August 2024 SheetLoad of Cards from Call Me Crafty Owl. Each month she puts out a sketch with a supply list and a cut list, everything you need to help you make a set number of cards. This month it is 8 cards, and it calls for 12 by 12 paper. So I'm going to work some more on this enchanted collection that I started last month for the SheetLoad. And I've picked out 2 patterns for the pattern papers. One's more floral, one's kind of more of a solidy neutral, but with some texture. And then I've also been working on using the Simple Stories Simple Vintage Coastals collection. The colors in it work pretty well with the Enchanted collection. So I'm going to be using this as my cardstock for the matting, because I thought it would pull out like the pinks that are in the paper. So that's what I'm going to be working with. We will get started on putting our cards together. I'm going to start by cutting down my patterned papers according to Alicia's cutting guide. And before I get too far, I do want to say that this is collaboration. So there is a playlist link in the description box below for you that you can click on and check out all of the other creative team members and how they used the SheetLoad this month. It's always interesting to see how everybody kind of interprets it a little bit differently. I'm going to cut one sheet of my pattern paper down with you, and I will do the second one off camera because it's pretty straightforward according to the cutting guide. Now I am using 12 by 12 pieces of paper instead of 8.5 by 11 for my matting layers, which the cutting guide does, or her supply list and cutting guide do use 8.5 by 11. So what I ended up doing was cutting 3 strips essentially at 5 1/4 by 12, and then trimming out my 4-inch mats from there. And then I'm going to come back in for the smaller mats, and I think they were 4 1/4 inches wide by 12 inches long, and then trim those into 3-inch pieces from there, and that gave me the 8 smaller mats that I needed as well. I'm bringing in the Buku Bouquet Sentiments stamp set from Whimsy Stamps for my sentiment. I just thought it would be it was an appropriate addition. Like, it went well with the theme, kind of whimsical, magical fairy theme of the cards. So I stamped that out on some scrap cardstock 8 different times, and then I fussy cut, kind of did a bubble cut around all 8 sentiments. And then I wanted to add some embellishment as well, since my sentiment wasn't going to take up much width on the front of the card. And the collection came with 2 sheets of tags, and the tag itself was going to be a little bit too tall, so I decided to fussy cut out the images of some of the tags. So I did that 8 different times, and now I am ready to assemble my card. Also, in the description box below, there will be a link for you to access Alicia's video where she tells you how you can get the most recent copy of the SheetLoad of Cards. And she does have, it is free if you are a subscriber. And then if you choose to join her channel membership, you do get additional perks, as well as the archival, like the archive of all the past SheetLoad of Cards that's searchable and kind of easier to get to than having to go through all of her past videos to find the past SheetLoads. So just an FYI. So I've assembled all the layers on my card, and I'm just now adding those embellishments, and like my little embellishment in my sentiment. And then we'll add that to my card base. And these are A2 card sizes, like you're making A2 cards, so 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And then from the vintage coastal papers, there were branding strip that had like some of the colored paper. And so I'm going to use that, a strip of that on the inside of a lot of my cards. So I'm going to assemble the other 7, kind of assembly line style off camera, but I did want to show you what I did with the scraps that I had. There was like the larger square piece and then that strip. So I'm going to take the strip and add that to my card base, and then layer the square piece kind of on top of that. And depending on your paper, you could orient this vertically or horizontally. I'm going to do one of each today, actually. And I just kept, used one of each pattern on each card. And then I have the ephemera pack that goes along with the collection, and so I'm going to bring in a couple pieces of those, as well as the branding strip for the Enchanted collection. It has a little message on there as well that I used as the sentiments for my SheetLoad card of cards last month, and so I'm going to add that to this as well, and just kind of create a little bit of a scene on the front of this one. Now, I struggle after I get my fairy down. I want something else on there, but none of the other ephemera really works. So I'm going to set that aside and then come back to it here in just a bit, because I have an idea of what I want to do with this card. There were some rectangular cut apart pieces in addition to the tags, and so I want to use one of those. So I chose one that has like more of a reddish tone, like with the flowers, and I'm just going to fussy cut around that. The tag has kind of like rounded corners, like a rounded corner frame around it, so I did try to follow that when I fussy cut it out. And then I thought it needed a little bit of something, so I took some of the scrap. It was pattern paper that I used as cardstock for my matting. I had a strip of that left, and so I'm just going to put that behind it. And then I didn't want to go over to my other desk to get any of like my distress inks to kind of like ink the edges. So I just decided to pull out some scrap cardstock that I had nearby and add a little bit of dimension to kind of create shadow that way, just so that tag element, that rectangular tag element, will stand out a little bit more. So I'm going to adhere that down, and then it says dream on it, so I'm just going to use that as a sentiment for this one. So I found a white butterfly that I'm just going to add as the third piece to my scene on the front of my first card that I did. And then there were sequins that I had pulled out for last month to go with this collection, and so I'm pulling out the white ones that I have left and just kind of peppering 5 of those around. I did end up adding sequins, 3 sequins to each of the original SheetLoad sketch cards that I did, so you'll see those here in just a minute. But I just thought this card still needed a little something more. So there were 2 square pieces left of scraps after I had cut the original scraps down. And I just cut those in half, each in half. So now I have 4. I needed 2 more pieces to go on the inside of 2 of the original SheetLoad cards. And then I needed 2 pieces to go on the inside of these additional bonus cards that I made. So I'm just going to add all of those in as I finish up these, and then give you a look at the 8 original SheetLoad cards that I made, as well as the 2 bonus cards. I just wanted to remind you to check out the description box below for the playlist to see all the other collaborators, and for Alicia's video where you can find out how you can get this month's SheetLoad. As always, I thank you so much for your time today, and I hope you all have a very crafty day.